India, 1903. British colonizers made locals carry them on their backs, a disturbing symbol of imperial arrogance. A party for both white and black children, Virginia, USA, 1958. In 1958, racial segregation in U.S. schools was legislatively abolished. Dance of Loyalty, Farach, a ritual on our dance, symbolizing the dancer's loyalty to the country's leader Mao Zedong, PRC, 1967. A message to the homeland about the most important matters, Afghanistan, 2000s. New York's Polo Championship, I'm sure there were injuries, 1912. During Prohibition in the U.S., it was illegal to produce, sell, or transport alcohol. As a result, winemakers resorted to tricks to survive in the new environment. For example, they started selling grape concentrates in bricks, labeling them with warnings. After dissolving the contents in a gallon of water, do not store the liquid in a closed cupboard, as after 20 days it will turn into wine. An American food parcel for starving Soviet Russia. Americans fed about 10 million people daily. Throughout the 1920s, Soviet Russia received over 1 million such shipments. In 1974, Pharaoh Ramesses II was issued a real Egyptian passport so that his 3,000-year-old mummy could be legally transported to Paris for restoration. In 1835, Halley's Comet passed close to Earth, and 2 weeks later, Mark Twain was born. Later, he wrote, "I came in 1835 with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." And so it happened. Twain died on April 21, 1910, the day after the comet passed again. Emma Lillian Todd, the first woman to design her own airplane, 1909. Burning oil refineries during the Iran-Iraq War, 1980. Harsh canned vodka for soldiers, 1950. It turns out that six-pack abs and muscular shoulders were not always in fashion. In the early 1900s, fat men's clubs became hugely popular, mostly within the USA. Only men weighing over 200 pounds could join. Even with a lawnmower in line, the fuel crisis in the USA, 1973. In a rural hairdresser's in Brittany, 1900. Women's wrestling, 1954. A white girl and a slave girl, 1880, Brazilian Empire. A policeman and an elderly woman during protests against a new tax in central London, 1990. An army jeep in good condition, 1950s. The image of a 21st century man according to Vogue magazine, 1939. FBI photo montage created in 1945 in case Hitler tried to escape by changing his appearance. Wedding rings found by American soldiers, Germany, Buchenwald, 1945. Eunuch from the Imperial Court, Beijing, 1949. Luftwaffe pilots at the ritual of welcoming new pilots into their ranks, 1942. The meaning of the ritual was to burn away their fear. Liverpool goalkeeper Ray Clements patiently waiting during a match against West Ham while a dog expresses its opinion of his performance, England, 1972. Loggers and a giant fallen tree in California, 1892. Adolf Hitler signs a document at the beginning of the war with Poland, 1939. German soldiers help a Frenchman stuck in the mud at Verdun, WWI, 1916. Light bulbs were once repaired. A worker at a Soviet factory is restoring burned-out electric lamps, December 1942. This is a Soviet woman who lost 7 sons during World War II. Menelik Dokakan Konosainanin Oradidevesaftoi Kanan, the king of kings of Ethiopia, believed in the power of the Bible. When he felt unwell, he would tear out pages from the Holy Scriptures and eat them. He died in 1913, having eaten the entire Book of Kings. A radio broadcast about gangsters, USA, 1930s. Hindu Mahant Amar Bharti Ji has kept his right arm raised since 1973. He has followers who worship him and replicate his feat. Sponge vendor, Austria-Hungary, 1904. Edith Piaf and Prisoners, Germany, 1944. During a performance at a camp, the singer took a photo with 120 prisoners. Upon returning to Paris, she sent the photo to an underground workshop where the prisoners' faces were re-photographed for fake documents. She later returned to the same camp, hiding the documents in a suitcase with a false bottom. She smuggled out some people as musicians while others escaped later. An Australian soldier watches as a Japanese soldier prepares to detonate a grenade against his own head, choosing to go out on his own terms. New Guinea, 1942. The democratically elected president Salvador Allende, moments before his death during a military coup at the presidential palace, September 11, 1973, Santiago, Chile. Miners packed into a multi-tiered lift, Belgium, early 20th century. Known as cages, these primitive elevators descended 1,000 meters deep. Cable snaps were common, turning the crowded shaft into a deadly trap with no escape. They even carried pigeons inside, living gas detectors that would drop dead if the air turned toxic. A dark chapter in Louisiana history. Under an 1848 law, children born to incarcerated black women became property of the state. Mothers raised them in prison until age 10, after which the state sold the children through newspaper ads. School for Black Civil Rights Activists. A girl is trained to remain calm while having her hair pulled and cigarette smoke blown in her face, USA, 1960. Russian peasants are introduced to electricity, 1920. Employees of Fred Alger Management, photographed around 2001 on the 93rd floor of One World Trade Center, lost 35 staff in the 9/11 attacks. Animal experiments to determine the effects of being upside down for long periods in a NASA laboratory, USA, 1958. An ordinary American bar from 1941 with a sign that says they don't serve beer to Indians. Wartime improvisation, 1942. Stockings were scarce in Trobihu, so women painted lines down their legs to fake the look. William Harley and Arthur Davidson, 1914. In public libraries of medieval Europe, books were chained to the shelves due to the high value of each copy. Marie Azélie Hadel, the last Hadel to own Whitney Plantation, and one of her enslaved house girls. Women cannibals, USSR, 1920s. Parade of Hate, 50,000 Ku Klux Klan members in Washington, 1926. An experiment to train students under hypnosis. The students are in a trance and listen to a lesson recording through headphones. Italy, 1963. The first Harley-Davidson motorcycle, made in 1903, had a carburetor made from a tomato can. A friendly gift. The bugging device hidden in the Great Seal. Thanks to this device, the USSR secretly eavesdropped on the United States for many years. 1945. The emotions of a man who served over 38 years in prison for a murder he did not commit after being found innocent. Ohio, USA. Monumental stone coins used by the people of Japan. They are still used as currency on the island of Palau. The rotor carousel reached 33 revolutions per minute, creating a centrifugal force of almost 3G. When people stuck to the wall of the drum due to the force, the floor was automatically removed for greater effect. USA, 1950s. James Robert Rinrose was on the FBI's most wanted criminals list. When FBI agents arrested him, he told them he had prepared for the arrest, as he had been carrying the essentials for years, and handed them a free jail release card from the board game Monopoly. An attempt to remove a psychiatric clinic patient from a tree. London, 1895. Antibiotics were discovered by accident. Alexander Fleming left a petri dish with Staphylococcus bacteria unattended for several days. A colony of mold grew in it and started destroying the bacteria. Fleming then isolated the active substance, penicillin. American soldiers are shown one of the methods of execution in the German concentration camp Buchenwald, 1945. The British Crown colony of Hong Kong under British sovereignty. About 130,000 people live in such huts on the water, 1960s. Testing of an atomic bomb visible from Las Vegas, 1950s. One of the largest aviation disasters in Germany. During a bombing demonstration from a dive at low cloud cover, 13 bombers flying one after another crashed into the ground, 1939. All of Mahatma Gandhi's possessions after his death, India, 1948. School bus, 1930s, USA. One of the last photos of Michael Rockefeller, who was seen entertaining a cannibalistic New Guinea tribe, disappeared without a trace during an expedition to New Guinea in 1961, and his body was never found. Behold the very first wireless telephone, pictured here in 1919. The iceberg photographed the day after the Titanic sank. There is a high probability that it was the cause of the sinking. One of the 1.5 million victims executed in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge regime just for being well-educated, 1978. The arrest of Rosa Parks for refusing to move to the whites-only section of the bus, USA, 1956. Last Hope, a woman praying to an icon and award for HIV-infected patients, Russia, 1993. Chief U.S. hunting inspector with a confiscated 10.9-inch 250-pound shotgun used for duck hunting, 1920. One shot with this would cover an entire flock. Such weapons were banned in the early 20th century. Vietnamese child and his father accused of aiding North Vietnamese partisans, 1966. Their fate remains unknown. The first state of Levi's Company, founded by Levi Strauss, 1853. A hysterical patient, 1893. This used to be called madness of the womb. An elephant from a Belgian zoo is forced to work on a farm during World War I, 1915. People resting on the lawn on a clear day in New York, September 11, 2001. A small girl in rags collects precious grains of wheat, USSR, 1921. Stefan Bobrowski, also known as Lionel the Lion-Faced Man, was born in Poland in 1890. He had hypertrichosis. His entire body was covered in hair. Pearl Harbor, 1941. A pie-eating contest, 1937. Men in shorts and cowboy boots serving women at a gas station in Texas, 1940s. Passers-by study a new map of Europe after World War I, 1918. How witnesses used to testify against the Mafia, 1969. A black boy drinks from a water fountain designated for whites only, USA, 1939. On October 5, 1948, the Ashgabat earthquake killed 110,000 people in Turkmen SSR. The active train designed in the USSR in the 70s. An image symbolizing racial segregation faced by Africans. Victorian baby bottle, meant to simplify breastfeeding, impossible to clean properly. It caused a rise in infant deaths and earned the nickname murder bottle. Titanic survivors Marjorie and Charlotte Collier in New York, 1912. This cage, known as a mort safe, appeared in 18th century Scotland. Medical students were digging up graves for practice, so families installed these heavy iron grates to protect their deceased relatives. A mother pleads with the police to return her son after he was arrested during a protest accusing the government of election fraud. South Korea, 1987. Thylacine, the last Tasmanian tiger, 1910s. The boldest necklines of the 1950s. An orphan taken in by an aviation squadron writes messages on bombs. For my mom, for my dad. Africa, Sudan, school class, 1954. A 3,200-year-old attendance sheet from Egypt. Reasons for worker absence. Embalmed brother. Drank beer. Bitten by a scorpion. In 1931, the Bulu tribe of Cameroon, upon learning of the Great Depression in the U.S., raised $377 to help starving American families. It is their desire to help that is noteworthy, not the meager sum. Albert Einstein at his home in New Jersey a month before his death, 1955. An American paratrooper, North Korea, 1950. Did this make you laugh, cry, or feel frustrated? Let me know your reaction in the comment section. Make sure to watch out for the next episode. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Cheers.